Thank you so much to our friends over at Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Hang around to the end for more information about Squarespace. Hey guys, Mac here. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to prepare your life for full-time travel. Overlanding, van life, whatever. It all applies. This information is helpful if you're interested in pursuing a full-time life on the road and you don't know where to start, or if you're well on your way in that process and just want to make sure you have all of your ducks in order before you leave. I know that this can be an incredibly daunting process when you're making such a massive overhaul in your life, but don't worry, I got you, and we're going to go through it together. I know how scary this process can be. I've been in your shoes a couple of times, actually. Back in 2012, after graduating for college, I went on the road for 6 months with the meager contents of my savings account and some hand-me-down camping gear. Inevitably, I did run out of money and had to come off the road against my will. After a few years of regular life, I realized enough was enough. I wanted to make the preparations that were necessary to get back on the road and to do it sustainably. It took 2.5 years to make that process happen, but it was worth every moment of preparation to know that I'm out here living my best life on the road, but in a sustainable way. Recently, I found myself going back through these exact same steps in preparation for traveling abroad. Before each section, a little title card will come on screen with an example date before your departure that this task could be tackled. It's purely there as an example, so if your timeline doesn't match up, no sweat. It's an example. All right, let's get started. This, as simple as it sounds, is the hardest part. By simply putting a date on the calendar, in pen, you are committing to yourself to put this entire journey into motion. I can't tell you how powerful this simple act is and how much clarity it will bring to your preparations. The date doesn't have to be anywhere in the near future, it just needs to be there. For instance, when I decided enough was enough, it's time to get back on the road, I put that date 2.5 years into the future. And I did that because I knew everything that I needed to do would take a lot of time to make it happen. Hopefully by the end of this video, it'll give you a better idea of what all of those things are, so then you can make an accurate assessment of your own life and pick the right date for you. Preparing your business for working from the road is by far the most time-consuming. Obviously, having a source of income is going to be crucial to making all of this sustainable. That, or you need to be independently wealthy, of which I am not. When I decided that I wanted to get back on the road, I personally had a 9-to-5 desk job. That's obviously not conducive for travel. So by setting a date on the calendar, I was able to work backwards and to come up with goal dates for leaving my job and building a freelance career. It took nearly 2 years to build up a strong enough client base to ultimately leave my job. The topic of building a business for life on the road is an exceedingly dense one. So to give it the attention it deserves, we'll tackle that in another video. So keep your eyes peeled for that later. If you do not plan to work on the road, you should be using this time to save up as much money as possible for the foreseen and the unforeseen expenses. After making the decision to go on the road, it is the hardest thing in the world to wait until you are fully ready to actually leave. But there's good news. You should be using this time to take practice trips, and I mean a lot of them. A practice trip can range from anything from a weekend to taking a week or 2 off of work. These little practice trips are so you can very literally practice traveling. Silly sounding, I know, but this is so you can test out and figure out exactly what clothes, gear, and equipment that you need for life on the road, as well as how to keep all those things organized. And that can be anything from the pillow that you use at night to the chairs that you use at camp. I used to go out every single weekend for nearly 2 years, and I learned everything from how to refine the clothes I thought I needed, all the way to roughly what 1 week's worth of expenses looked like for when it came time to making a budget. Those first few trips were horribly unorganized because I had zero systems in place. But over time, I learned how to stay organized, how to build and take down camp, and also that I had a ton of unnecessary gear on board. These test trips will also give you the opportunity to practice working from the road if that is something that you plan on doing. The great thing is, all of these things that I've mentioned only get easier with time. But by starting to practice early, you're giving yourself the opportunity to lessen the growing pains that are inevitable with making such a massive lifestyle change. Finding or building a vehicle for your life on the road is quite possibly the most fun and rewarding part of this whole process, in my opinion. I do recommend starting that whole process about a year out from leaving. I recently released a video on this exact topic, so today I will keep it brief, but I do really recommend it because it is jam-packed with all sorts of good info on how to find the right vehicle for you. For your convenience, I will link it in the description of this video below. The reason why I recommend working on your vehicle so far in advance is so you get a great opportunity to get to know your new home on wheels before you get on the road. This gives you plenty of time to sort out any sort of build or work out any kinks that might come up. It's also really important to have your vehicle with you for these practice trips because there are tons of organizational systems that you're going to need to figure out and implement into your vehicle. I personally found on these trips, every time I thought I had gotten to the final iteration of where everything was going to be stored, I'd find some new and better way to do it, which would require me to pull everything out and start over. But I weirdly get a lot of enjoyment out of that process. All right, you guys, this part's a doozy. Let's talk about getting rid of your belongings. All right, so this whole section will greatly depend on the length of your travel. If you're just going to be gone for a few months, you likely are not needing to sell off everything you own, but instead are needing to find a way to store all the belongings that you will not be taking with you on the road. If you plan on traveling full-time or indefinitely for the foreseeable future, you likely will need to sell off the vast majority of your belongings, much like I did. I will not sugarcoat it and say that this was by far the most challenging part of the process in preparing for life on the road, for me personally. The earlier you start this process, the easier it will be on you. By starting early, you're really giving yourself the opportunity to think about what you may or may not need out on the road. I personally really liked starting earlier because I was able to pull clothes and gear aside and live off of them for a while to ensure that I had the right selection. If not, I was able to swap things around without having to go out and buy something I potentially already had and try again. As you start to identify things that you will not need for your life on the road or don't think that you will need for life after the road, start selling. The reason why I suggest this is because selling through an entire house of belongings is both physically, mentally, and emotionally draining. The methods for selling your belongings that I recommend are yard sales, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and eBay. For clothes, I recommend the same ones, but also Poshmark and your local consignment shops. It can be hard to advise what you should and should not keep just because everybody is different. So instead, I will take you through a small list of the things that I decided to keep but put in storage. Artwork, a few family heirloom rugs, 2 chairs, and a small collection of nice clothes just in case I have a nice occasion to go to and my parents can mail them out to me. Other than the clothes, everything that I decided to keep was moved into a 4x8 storage unit 2 weeks before my departure. So that last bit of time I spent living in a house with nothing except for what I was going to be bringing with me. It was great for practicing living with less and being sure that I had all of the right things for my new life on the road. All right, you are finally getting so close to going on the road, but we still have a few clerical things that we need to go through. So let's start with your mail. Mail can be a challenge on the road, but luckily you have a few options as to how you can go about it. The first option is having all of your day-to-day mail go to a family member. This is a great option because you can be in close contact with them and they can let you know if anything urgent comes in. This is what I personally do. All of my mail goes to my good old mom, and then if anything then needs to come out to me, she will repackage it and send it USPS general delivery. If family is not an option for you, there are plenty of mail services out there such as Escapee's RV Club. Healthcare is a little bit less straightforward. If you have a job that offers healthcare, great. Get it through them. If not, you can go through the healthcare marketplace, which is what I personally do because I am self-employed. I also advise that you go in for any last-minute checkups just to make sure you're good and healthy before you hit the road. Internet on the road is a very hot topic. If you do plan to work from the road, it is something that you will want to have sorted out before you go. I personally have a Verizon Unlimited plan and an additional line on a hotspot, either of which I can connect to when I'm in service to get internet. Thus far, the system has worked really well for me, but also don't forget things such as public libraries and coffee shops because they're an excellent source of good free Wi-Fi when you're out on the road. Well, that's it, folks. These are the very basic steps that will hopefully get you a little bit closer to full-time travel out on the road. Obviously, it's going to look a little bit different for you, but hopefully you get the gist. If you have any topics that you would like for me to cover in the future, feel free to toss them in the comments below. Always looking to help. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you down the road. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. If you are not familiar with Squarespace, they give people like us a powerful and beautiful platform to create a website. In fact, our website has been on Squarespace since we got on the road all the way back in 2016. Squarespace makes it easy to present your travel photos using their professional portfolio designs. You can also display projects in easy-to-use, customizable galleries. You can even add password-protected pages to share private work with clients. Squarespace can authenticate your social profiles on Twitter, Facebook, and Tumblr, letting you auto-post your content. And Squarespace Analytics makes it easy to follow the trends over time of your site visits, unique visitors, and page views. That way you can gain more insight into your traffic sources, device types, browsers, and operating systems by visits. Head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your incredible new website, go to squarespace.com/boundfornowhere for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. This information is going to be helpful if you are interesting. Are you interesting? By starting 6 or more situation. That was terrible. Just looks so flat. Whatever, it's dirty. It wouldn't be a video unless I burped.